Okay, cool. Everything's recording.
Cool.
We ready to roll?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Cool. Welcome back to Friends in Austin, where we interview interesting people in Austin, entrepreneurs, burners, musicians. If you want to find out about Austin society and culture, tune in and subscribe, please. Today I have Lukas Gilkey on the podcast, and he is the founder of a company called Hometown Hero, which, funny enough, I have heard of, and their vape juice I really like. And the Rice Krispie treats, actually, Lukas, is my favorite juice.
I brought you some.
Yeah. So brought me a big old bag of goodies. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything we make in one box. So it should be fun. We got some CBD gummies in there, some flour, e-liquid, Comet Rocks, Moon Rocks, salves, lotions, tinctures. I mean, just the whole thing. So
Wow.
You got everything.
Damn, dude. Thank you. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, enjoy.
So, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. A little bit crazy. Our daily life at this point is kind of dealing with the FDA and dealing with the state of Texas. A lot of regulatory. When we first started, it really wasn't. There was regulatory, but it wasn't like it is now. And as we've grown over the years, we've been in business 5 years now. And as we've grown, it's just become so much more regulatory. And regulatory kind of takes away all the fun, and it's not as kind of Wild West as it used to be. And I understand the purpose of the regulatory side of it and the 3-letter government agencies and kind of working with them, but it does kind of takes the fun out of the business sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, you're dealing more with red tape rather than being creative and like getting creative with your product and marketing your product and everything else.
Yeah.
So do you have like a team of people that helps you with all that regulatory stuff, or are you dealing with a lot of that on your own?
There's definitely a team of people. So we've got probably, depending on if it's something that needs to go through lawyers, or if it's just a simple regulatory, or if it's a state issue like taxes or things like that, there's probably about 4 people we work with that sort of help guide us and navigate us. It gets really complicated at times. We've got states on the e-liquid side that want us to pay taxes, and each state has different rules and different things that you have to do to register and maintain a license in that state. So, I mean, at this point, we're dealing probably 25 out of the 50 states you have to be licensed in to sell e-liquid. Luckily, on the CBD side, we started selling CBD last year, almost exactly to the day.
And why did you want to get into that? Just an obvious transition, or had you been thinking about that?
The e-liquid industry went through kind of a weird space last year. The e-liquid industry since 2016, it's been basically constantly under threat of being taken away. And by being taken away, I mean essentially from the small companies like us being taken away and sort of handed to the larger companies. And it's part of the FDA process in making sure these products are meeting certain guidelines and certain regulatory clinical trials and all this different stuff. And I understand it. But it is kind of a weird space to be in because, we've been in the e-liquid industry since 2015. And since 2016, almost, immediately after we got in the industry, it really started probably 2010 to 2012, but didn't really pick up until 2012. But in 2016, the FDA passed some stuff and basically said, hey, look, we're going to start putting you guys through the regulatory process that we put cigarettes through. And it's a weird one because cigarettes are so much harmful than e-liquid. I pulled the data the other day. Cigarettes, it's reported by the CDC that cigarettes kill 480,000 people a year. That's a ton of people.
Yeah.
And e-liquid, there's been some deaths from batteries and like certain things, but nobody, as far as I can tell, there hasn't been a recorded death from somebody actually vaping from the e-liquid itself. Mm-hmm. The hardware issues are kind of a whole different story. And there used to be these things called mechanical mods, which are, when you really think about it, it's pretty scary because, an 18650 battery is, it can get pretty intense if something goes wrong with that battery because they're lithium ion and they're, it's a crazy little battery. They're very efficient.
And from my understanding, what you're talking about, and I remember hearing about this, people's vapes exploding, and it was because of the people that were modding them and putting different components on it without really an understanding of how it works.
Yeah, so just to put it in context, in case people don't understand what an 18650 is, an 18650 is what Tesla runs their cars on. They take thousands of these batteries and they link them together, and that's what powers a Tesla automobile. I mean, these are some of the fastest, most powerful cars on the planet, and they're running off these batteries. So even if you break it down to a single one, I mean, there's still a ton of power contained in these little batteries. And a mechanical mod, you're essentially, it's like taking a wrench and dropping it on 2 battery terminals, and you're essentially just heating that element, that coil. And in the past, people would get a little bit crazy and try and bring the resistance down and put a battery in a situation where it's not effectively capable of managing that, and things would go wrong. And it's just, it's one of those dark areas of our industry in the past that has happened, and people got hurt from it, people died from it. I don't think you can even buy mechanical mods anymore. I haven't seen them in a long time.
Mm-hmm. And you never even sold those type of things, did you? You were always in the actual liquid.
I'll admit I've got some antiques, like mechanical mods. I mean, there were some handmade ones in Texas that were beautiful, and I have them, but I don't use them. Mm-hmm. They're kind of crazy when you really think about what it is. And we never sold them, but they are just, it was a weird part of the industry trying to figure itself out. And this is where it kind of gets weird on the regulatory side, because we're at a point now where since 2016, we haven't been able to make a new product on the vapor side. Because of the FDA, because they have a regulatory deadline of August 8th, 2016, we haven't been able to make a new product since then.
A new product meaning even a liquid?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
They're really holding you up on that, but you can still sell.
And that's where it gets weird. It's like, the industry had made so much advancement. If you look at where, it started in 2010 to 2012 with little cartomizers and little pieces of cotton and little tiny pens, and sort of the evolution of how quickly it moved. I mean, it moved insanely fast. It was legitimately a tech industry, in how quickly it evolved and moved and did certain things. And the industry was moving towards making this safer, making it more effective at helping people quit smoking and just doing all these things. And then the FDA gets involved and really completely stops that. Anybody in our industry has not been able to create a new product. Some people have, and sort of gone around that, but technically you aren't allowed to create a new product since August 8th, 2016. If it wasn't on the market prior to that, you weren't allowed to have a new product, which is, I understand why, but at the same time, you're holding back the ability to help people quit something that's deadly.
Yeah, I see that part of it. So I want to ask you about the whole, what was it, a year ago, there was a big scare going on in Juul, and everything was in the news big time, and it had to do with vitamin E and holes in people's lungs, and I don't know what's true and what's not true, but can you comment on that? What do you know about that?
So from an industry standpoint, somebody that's in industry in a company that manufactures e-liquid, what had happened was that there was somebody, the main culprit appeared to be out of California. If you go back and read some of the news articles, it's very sporadic because there was this huge vitamin E acetate scare, and all of it was being blamed on vaping until there was actually a resolution and they figured out what it was, and then it all disappeared. And none of the news agencies really went back and said, like, oh, we figured out what it was. It wasn't vaping, it was this, which kind of sucks. So the main culprit appeared to be a person out of California that was manufacturing illegal THC pens for the black market.
Okay.
And they were so when you're working with CBD oil or THC oil, it's very thick, it's very viscous, it's like honey. In some cases, even more so. I mean, if you've ever gotten CBD oil or THC oil, like residue on your fingers, I mean, it takes rubbing alcohol to get that off. And even then, it's tough to get off your fingers. So to break that down into a form that's vapable, people cut it with all kinds of weird stuff. And one of the things that they found they could cut it with, this is my understanding, this may not be perfectly accurate, but this is my understanding, of what actually happened. They were using vitamin E acetate to cut it. And vitamin E acetate is a very dangerous substance to inhale and put into your lungs. So all these people were using these black market THC pens, which, by the way, they were selling, according to the data I saw, they were selling millions of them a month. Oh, I mean, I know at least a dozen people who are using these pens, right?
Scary.
I mean, they were freaking everywhere. So you've got vitamin E acetate cutting the oil that they're using for the THC, oil to be able to vape it. And then they're just dumping these things all across the country. I mean, I saw numerous news articles with people getting caught with like 50,000 of these pens in their apartment, selling them, in New York or wherever. And it's just nuts. And so, when it first came out, because it was a vapable product, the news agencies immediately said, oh, it's vaping. We knew it, you scumbags. We knew you were doing this. And we're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, nowhere in our product is vitamin E acetate. We know all the ingredients in our products. We have to per the FDA. We know all the companies we work with for all the ingredients. We know they aren't doing anything shady. So it was like, where is this coming from? And the media just beat it and beat it and beat it like a dead horse.
Because they love scare tactics, because they get views that way.
That's a whole different animal and rabbit hole.
Yeah. So how did that affect you? I mean, obviously, did that trickle out into the entire vaping industry?
Last year was a brutal year.
Yeah.
Last year was a brutal year. Because of that, I heard, we weathered it fairly well. Typically November is our best year in sales, and our November last year was half of what we were expecting it to be. And from what I heard, it was industry wide. It sort of culminated in sort of, the last quarter of last year, if you want to look at it from a sales cycle perspective. And the industry just got pummeled. I mean, we had companies going out of business left and right, very established, long-standing companies that were around long before us, that were even much larger than us. And we had a lot of companies going out of business because the sales that were expected within the industry just weren't there. We heard from some of our retail customers that sell at a store level, brick and mortar. We heard from some of them that sales were down as much as 60% over the year prior.
Damn.
And that's just brutal. Some of these people are mom and pop shops where if you take a 60% cut on sales, like it's not going to be pretty.
Then follow that up with COVID, and that's tough.
Yep. So, man, it's been a brutal last 12 months.
Well, how were you able to survive?
So we'd been working on CBD pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through that last quarter of sort of the vapor chaos, if you want to call it, from sort of the downfall of the vitamin E acetate craziness in the media and all that stuff, and sort of impacting the industry. That started going away in probably January, February. And people realized, look, it wasn't these products, it was these illegal black market THC pens. So that started going away, and everything started to get back to normal-ish. And then, we get whacked with COVID, and Texas, specifically Austin, did a shutdown, which was a little bit intense, and trying to figure out how to navigate that. And it's a different world, man. I talk to people every day, and I really want to try and stay focused on business, and people deal with this stuff so much. I don't want to burn them out on it, but yeah, it's a different world. And especially in the business world, trying to navigate this, trying to figure out, at one point we were figuring out how do we stay open, which every business that I know of had that conversation of how do we stay open, and how do we make sure we can continue to provide for the families that are involved in this business.
Yeah.
And we deal, we've got, 25, 30 people on staff. That's 30 families that depend on us. And if we go away, it's going to impact their lives drastically. So, I really look at it as my job of how do we make sure we continue to provide for these families. And then if you go even deeper, we've got 5,000 stores we sell to across the country. If those stores don't get our products, yeah, theoretically they could go get them from somewhere else, but it will impact their income. And it will impact their ability to provide for their families and their staff. I mean, it really, if you go big picture on this, it cascades out. I mean, we're talking probably 20 to 50,000 families that would be impacted by, any company or industry going away.
Yeah. And with vaping, can you not sell direct to consumer over your website? Is that just like a thing that's not allowed?
We can. They're currently trying to shut that down as well. So that is, I want to say it's going to go to the Senate. I think it already went through the House, and it passed unanimously to stop allowing United States Postal Service to deliver vape products via mail.
Damn.
And so that is going to go to the Senate, I believe. It was supposed to go there, probably a couple weeks ago. And from what I heard, it hasn't yet. But it's weird, man. There's still a lot of anti-vaping people in the government that are still pushing stuff through to sort of, put the nail in the coffin, if you want to call it, in the vaping industry. And with all of this other stuff going on, and it's like, come on, you guys got better stuff to focus on than this.
For sure. So I do think it's odd that, smoking's still allowed, and they're cracking down so hard on vaping, like an alternative to smoking.
Come to your own conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but yeah, I mean, everybody's got their own conspiracy theory of sort of who and why is why is this happening and who's behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fascinating when you get into it, but it's business. I get it. It's business. We are in a space that is over 100 years old. We came in with many other companies and sort of rattled their house. Took a big chunk of revenue from Big Pharma and from Big Tobacco, because Big Pharma has all the pills, the patches, the gums. I mean, that's $1 trillion industry in itself.
I didn't think about that part of it.
There's a lot of money there, a lot of money.
But,
and then you've got Big Tobacco, who now is actually acquiring companies in our space and producing their own products and kind of trying to take over. So it gets interesting. If you follow the money, it does get a little bit interesting.
So what got you into vaping, and what made you want to start this company?
Man, so I am I'm not a huge fan of the word entrepreneur, but I guess I would be categorized as a serial entrepreneur.
Why didn't you like that word?
I feel like everybody that tells me they're an entrepreneur, or anytime that word's used, I always picture like this kind of down in the dumps, like homeless business guy, like trying to figure out what's going on. I've got negative connotations with that word, and I don't know why. I'm just not a huge fan of that word. But yeah, I guess you could call me that, because at some point I was almost homeless. So I guess you could call me a serial entrepreneur, and it would probably be quite fitting. So I was coming off, my 9th company. This is Hometown Hero was my 10th business. And, there's a gentleman I work with very closely, and, he's been working with us since day one of Hometown Hero. He was my old CEO in Los Angeles and used to work for him. And him and I both, around the same time left the company we were working for, and went separate ways, and both went down the, starting new companies and entrepreneurship and going down that path. And so we've kind of been cheerleaders for each other along the way. And I remember telling him, I've started 9 companies. If you go by the statistic that 90% of businesses fail,
you got one.
I'm due for a win, brother. Like, I'm due for a win if I'm going to keep playing these odds.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you would expect a serial entrepreneur to say. Because, you got to have eternal optimism. There's always got to be a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how bad it is. So, when I started Hometown Hero, I was probably 2 to 3 months away from being homeless. Coming off a failed startup, had basically lost $150,000, and really trying to figure out what was next. And one of my very good friends who I'd worked with for a long time was out in Austin, and he was vaping. I was never a cigarette smoker, but I was a big time hookah user. I love hookahs. That's my jam.
Okay.
Fumari Ambrosia is like the holy grail to me. That hookah flavor is just phenomenal.
Okay.
And so, I was a big hookah user, and he was smoking cigarettes, and he was trying to quit, and he started vaping. And he showed up one day, and he had this Hexome box, which Hexome is actually a local company in Austin that was making them. He showed up with a Hexome box and some e-liquid and stuff, and let me play with it. And I was like, this is so cool. It's a portable hookah. Like, this is amazing. And, the hookah technology really hasn't changed in like 500 years.
No, yeah.
I mean, we're still doing the same thing they were doing 500 years ago, basically. Mm-hmm. So I saw this, and I was like, that is amazing. And so we started playing with it, and I went to the store to buy some e-liquid and buy a mod and stuff. And the e-liquid at the time was $30 for like a 30 ml bottle, which is crazy expensive. And I was like, man, I'm broke. I don't have money to afford this. I wonder if I can make it myself. Mm-hmm. So I go home and I start digging around and start looking at stuff and figure out, some basic suppliers and start making some flavors. I want to say the first bottle I ever sold was the Krispie treats.
Oh yeah, well,
and it was to my buddy Lewis. He bought a liter of it.
Nice.
I made him a sample, and he's like, I love it. And I was like, all right, I'll make you a liter of it.
How do you go about making a sample? And how did you come up with Rice Krispie treats?
I'd ordered just a ton of flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know this, but the flavoring that's used in e-liquid is actually, my understanding is it's derived from coffee flavoring. A lot of the companies that make e-liquid flavoring derive those specific flavors from a coffee flavoring that was being used. And so I'd ordered, just a variety of flavors that you can buy them in like little 10 ml bottles, and was ordering them. And just started putting some stuff together and started designing flavors. And then I called up some buddies of mine that were artists in Austin. I used to go to Castle Park when it was still open.
What is Castle Park?
So Castle Park, Castle Hill, whatever you want to call it. It was where is it? It's like Lamar and something over there. We'll pull it up, and I can tell people exactly where it is. But it was basically, they called it at one point the Hope Lake Artist Park and stuff like that. It's had like 4 or 5 different names. But my understanding was it was an old condominium development that was being built on the side of a hill over off of, I want to say it's Lamar.
Do you want me to look it up?
Yeah, pull it up. And you can probably show a shot of it on the screen. So they were trying to build this condominium building back in, I want to say, the 90s. And the city kept, I guess there were some code issues and they didn't have the money to finish it. So it ended up being like these 3-tiered hills. Castle Hill, yeah. And so there's these walls that are probably like 200 feet long each, and just these giant blank canvases. And artists would go out there and paint these walls with just the most amazingly beautiful artwork you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, I've got it.
It is incredible. And I would go out there on the weekends to relax, and I would take my camera and I'd go shoot. And I'm making friends with a bunch of the artists, a bunch of the local guys that would go out there and paint all the time. And it's funny. A lot of them at the time were fairly small and not that well known. And now a lot of them are huge. I mean, these guys are massive, and they would just paint stuff that was just, to me, the most beautiful artwork I'd ever seen. I love their styles and I love their stuff. There's Deathfox, Lukas Gilkey, Skis, Lena, Eye Doctor. I mean, all these people that are just phenomenal artists, and they would just go out there with a can of paint and a roller and produce things that would just blow your mind. I mean, to me, it was like, I cannot comprehend how a person took that out of their head and put that on a wall.
I'm the same way. I can't do that.
Spray paint can. Yeah. It's like I don't get it.
Yeah.
And it was just so fascinating to me. And I would go out there and I would shoot pictures because Castle Park, the way it's set up is anybody can really go out there with a can of paint. So you would have these artists produce these pieces that were just, I mean, one-off, just absolutely beautiful, like world-class artwork. And then like 5 minutes later, somebody would come and spray paint a penis on it. I'm not kidding, by the way. There was a serial penis painter out there for a while, and he would just put penises on everything. And I was like, come on, man.
Come on,
like,
dude.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
This is some high school kid.
yeah. Ruining all this brilliant artwork.
It's like, come on. But it was just the artwork these guys produced was just phenomenal. So I felt bad that it would go away. Like if you came the day after they painted it, like it would be covered up and spray painted and it would just be trashed. So I made a point to go out there kind of every weekend for a while and just shoot their stuff. Just shoot it and take pictures of it, because there was no like record of it. It didn't exist. I mean, somebody would spray paint over it and it's gone.
Yeah.
And I ended up making friends with a lot of the artists because I was doing that, and I would send them the pictures I took, and I had a really nice like Canon 60 and would go out there. And so when I started Hometown Hero, I was trying to figure out what to do with my labels, and I was like, you know what? I'm friends with all these artists. Let me just call them up. And I called them up and I said, hey, if I give you 1% of our profits on this, are you cool with letting me use your artwork? And I wasn't expecting any of them to say yes, and they all said yes. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. So we started paying the artists, basically commission for their artwork, which was great. I love supporting Texas artists and love supporting those guys. And they're the nicest people in the world, and they're so talented.
That's why your labels are so badass then.
Deathfox, who he designed this box.
Nice.
He also did this shirt. Deathfox is phenomenal. He works in-house with us.
Should we open it up and look at some of the labels?
Yeah, pop it open, man. So Deathfox is our in-house graphic designer and really coordinates everything and sets everything up. And the guy, I can't say enough good things about him. He is just absolutely amazing as an artist. There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, there's a lot. So this is the new line of CBD products. We did some of the skincare stuff. So this is a topical roll-on. It's a 1,500 milligram. It works really well. So if you have any kind of pain or any kind of issues you wanna use that with, it works really well. Sort of a pain reliever. This is the salve. It's something similar, but it's more of a kind of coconut oil based cream. Let's see. We got a grinder for you.
Cool. Smells good.
There's a grinder for you.
Oh man, I love the artwork on that.
Yes, that's Todd as well. So that's Dreamscape. That's that's CBG.
Cool. CBG. What's CBG?
So CBG is fascinating. It's been out for about a year, but we haven't carried it because most people didn't know what it was. We kept kind of testing the market and kept playing with it. And nobody really understood what CBG was. CBG is sort of the first indica if you want to call it, indica versus sativa, it's really the kind of the first indica in the hemp CBD market.
Yeah, I'm just showing. Cool. I'm showing the bottle and I'm showing some of the labels.
Yeah,
we can see it easier. That's cool. So it's the first indica in the CBD market.
Yeah, typically all hemp, all CBD is natively sativa. So CBG was the first indica version of hemp and CBD flower. Got a ton of gummies for you. Try not to hit the mic as I move around.
So this isn't classified as weed.
It's not. Yeah. So the difference between CBD and traditional marijuana, recreational marijuana or legal marijuana, whatever you want to call it, is CBD has less than 0.3% THC.
I just didn't know that it came in flower form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how it's all. I mean, so all the lotions, all the oils, even the gummies, at some point it came from the flower form of CBD. Mm-hmm. They'll extract it out using CO2 extraction, and they'll turn it into a different product, whether it's an isolate or oil. But everything starts from the flower standpoint. One of my buddies just finished. He's basically harvesting right now in Texas. And I'm supposed to go up there. I was supposed to go up there yesterday. I didn't get a chance to make it, but I'm gonna go up next week. And I mean, he's got acres and acres and acres of essentially cannabis in Texas, which is, it's CBD, but it is essentially marijuana.
Yeah, I mean, it has THC
it's state registered. It's legal. One of my buddies was telling me he was driving somewhere in South Travis County, and basically on the side of the road, there's a marijuana farm.
It's crazy. I had no idea about any of this.
Yeah, it's wild. Most people don't. And like, usually I'll pull out, like I go to, I'll see friends and stuff, and I'll give them some of our flour, and they'll like look at me and like look around, and they'll be like, "Why are you giving me this?" Like, no, it's legal. Like, it's cool. Like, you can go in a store and buy this in Texas, and it's fully legal. And they're like, "No, you can't." Like, yeah, you can.
I had no clue, man.
And that's the thing is, I just think most people don't know. I mean, it's an amazing, phenomenal product. It smokes like bud. It looks like bud. It tastes like bud. It's not going to get you high, but you get a lot of the body effects still, mm-hmm. which is super fascinating and super interesting. I love CBD, specifically CBG. Our indoor is out of season right now. I'll get you some of our indoor when we get it in stock. Mm-hmm. The indoor is phenomenal.
What is that?
It's a hydroponic LED CBD flower. Mm. It looks as good as any real cannabis product, real being, full THC. Yeah. It looks as good as the best stuff you've ever seen.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's nuts. We have trouble keeping it in stock. We can only get about 60 pounds every, 2 to 3 months. And we get wiped out. Like, it's immediately gone once we get it.
Oh, wow. What is this?
So this is tea.
Oh, dude, that's badass. CBD tea. I love that.
Yeah, so there's chamomile, lavender, CBD flower, a whole bunch of different stuff mixed in there. I think there's some lemon zest. It's an amazing product. It's really good. It's sort of, if you want to consume it that way, it's a really good product.
And again, dude, the labels, your labeling's so good.
Yeah,
I love the style of all of it.
Deathfox did that one as well. Deathfox has ended up doing a lot of ours. Yeah, so on the side, on the e-liquid, we've got the artist like Nocturne did that one. He used to paint at Castle Park all the time. A lot of these were actually shot at Castle Park. So the Red Dream label was shot at Castle Park.
And so, yeah, I know
this label was shot at Castle Park.
Cool, dude. So, and I know what you're talking about now. Someone has told me about it. Like, it's like the Castle Hill Graffiti Park. Yeah. And I had someone ask me to go out there and check it out, and I wish I did. That was years ago.
I want to say they closed it down and they're actually going to start developing where it was, but they did open a new one. I think it's now called the Hope Outdoor Gallery. At least that's what they changed the name of Castle Park to at the end. And I want to say they're opening it over by the airport.
Okay.
So if anybody's looking for that in the new spot, it's if you do Hope Outdoor Gallery, it should come up.
Okay, cool.
This is Crumble.
What is Crumble?
Crumble is a isolate-based product. It's essentially heat-tempered isolate.
Oh, that smells really good.
Yeah, so there's a lemon and there's a strawberry, and there's a variety of different ways to consume it. It's just a different style of CBD and a different way to consume it.
And so, I don't know if people can see, but it looks like almost like wax pieces or something in there.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of different ways are there to consume it? Like, could you just chew on some of it, or would you not want to do that?
Theoretically, you could. So Texas has specific laws on smokable products. So I have to be careful sort of playing in that area. Obviously any product can be kind of used in a nefarious way if you'd like, but I have to be very clear that all of our products are not designed to be smoked.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And we can't endorse that or advertise that. If somebody does that, it's out of my control, but we can't advertise or say that.
Okay. I want to show on camera some of the labels again real quick. And so what is the name of the guy that's done a lot of these?
So Deathfox, Nocturne did the Rice Krispie, and Deathfox did the Red Dream. Yeah, we've been very, very blessed to work with some phenomenal artists.
That's so cool. I had no idea that you were inspired by that Graffiti Park.
Yeah, that's really the roots of the company, where, the very first labels I did when I took out the first samples and met with, 10 stores in Austin. At the time I was about to be homeless and, had no money. I took my last, I think I still have the bank statement. I had $4.41 in my bank account.
Jesus, man. Did you have kids at that time?
No,
I
didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky that I didn't. And it allowed me to sort of be a little bit crazy in that sense when business.
I don't understand how you go from $4.14. Like, how did you to having these products and stuff? I mean, like, how do you?
It's been a wild evolution. And so that first day, I basically, at the time I had a Jeep. I ended up selling the Jeep to keep the company afloat. And just have money. So I had a Jeep and I said, you know what? I'm going to go hit 10 stores with these sample packs I made, and I put them in these little light blue boxes that matched the caps. At the time, it was actually a different color blue. We ended up with this blue. Weird story. We ended up with this blue because there was a manufacturing error, and we didn't have the money to go back and reorder the tops or to wait for the new tops to come. So originally, we actually had a different blue color. And this blue came, and we couldn't afford to change it or to not sell it, so we had to switch everything to that blue.
That's a badass blue, though.
I love it.
It's
It came
one
out,
of my favorites.
everything works in a kind of weird, magical way within the universe, so it actually worked out great. So went to 10 stores in Austin and spoke with them and made friends with the owners, and that's really my philosophy in business, is just make friends with people. If they like you, they'll buy from you, and if they, I'm not a hard sales kind of guy. I'm let's make friends, and if you like what I sell, you can buy it, and if not, you're not going to hurt my feelings. We'll still be friends. And so, I took that mentality and just went out and tried to make friends with 10 local owners in Austin, and we had, I want to say, like $4,000 worth of orders in like 24 hours. And I called my buddy, and I was like, hey, he was driving for Lyft at the time, Lewis, and I told him, hey, quit your job. We're going to do this. I need your help. So we literally took the checks that we got, the first money, and we went and ordered all this stuff to make it. We didn't even have it. I didn't have the money to have it. And it was kind of on a whim, and I wasn't expecting that volume of orders. So we went and we hustled, and we had everything overnighted and probably paid out the ass for it, but we busted it out and got it to them, and they loved us. And we really pissed off a lot of people in the industry when we started, which I try not to do.
How so?
It was brutal. So, at the industry at the time, they were selling 30 ml glass bottles for $30 a piece. And we came in and said, we're going to do a 50 mil. We have 60s now, but we were originally did a 50 mil, and we sold them to they were retail $19.99. So you were getting almost double the volume at 2/3 the price. And so the stores were like, oh, this is great. We love this. And everybody was in glass at the time. Now everybody's in plastic, but at the time everybody was in glass. And so it was just a different product. And we had these weird, crazy art labels and everything. And it was just kind of a weird one. And it took off. And, I had competitors from California calling us, threatening us, and telling us we were assholes and all that fun stuff. But, I really just wanted to go into it as, when I started vaping, I couldn't afford the stuff that was being sold. So I wanted to make a product that people could actually afford and gave them a good value. And it just took off, and it went crazy. And I think we're in something like 5,000 stores now nationwide.
It's crazy, man. I think a lot of it is obviously the quality of the product, but like the labeling is very good, and it's very Austin to me. And, and you started it in Austin, right?
Yeah.
And you started branching out from there. Like when I saw these in the store, I mean, you just look at them, you see them on the shelf, you're like, those are the coolest ones in here. Like, what are those?
And that's what we try and do. And we're also fanatics about quality. We use all of the products we make, and we consistently use them to make sure that the quality is up to par. We won't sell something that we won't consume ourselves. And that's always been our philosophy of, okay, that's really where our new products come from. I mean, at this point, we've got, I don't know how many products, but
I had no idea that you had such a wide array, and it's badass. By the way, I'm super stoked about all this stuff, and especially this tea and that CBG stuff.
Yeah, we're, we are kind of quality snobs. Like I said, we use all these products, and we only want to produce the absolute best things we can. That's the best value for the consumer who uses them. And that's really been our philosophy since day one of how do we provide the absolute best quality product that we can provide at the best price and give the best value, and that goes back to the roots of where we started. At the time I was broke. I couldn't afford anything. That's really the genesis of this company came from me not having money to afford what I wanted and really trying to make the products that would cater towards people that wanted a high quality product, but didn't have the money for the expensive stuff. Mm-hmm. So we've always been a value-based brand, but we're kind of weird in the sense that we're a value-based brand that does really high-quality products.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like with all this legal stuff? How are you feeling about that? How confident are you that the business can continue to grow? Are there certain products that are more at risk than others? Like, is the CBD stuff kind of going to protect you in case some of the vape stuff gets...
It's weird. I get asked almost daily now because I've got a lot of friends in the industry and, just people talking with us about vapor and other stuff and navigating through it. If you told me vapor was going to last for eternity, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me, the vapor products, the vapor industry as we know it would be drastically different in 24 months, I wouldn't be surprised. So it's kind of vapor is really right now kind of a day by day, and we keep navigating, keep spending money to meet the hurdles presented to us by the FDA. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot you can do. And even the most knowledgeable experts that we work with in terms of regulatory space with vapor, it's totally up in the air. Mm-hmm. And at any point, a new law can be passed that can change something, or it's kind of all over the place. It's really tough to say. Now on the CBD side, CBD is kind of a different animal. There's actually, I don't know if you've heard this, they're actually pushing to potentially legalize marijuana in Texas now.
No, I actually haven't heard that.
Which is really fascinating. So apparently there's some pretty serious talks, and I actually saw, I was alerted to this by some friends of mine who work in local state politics. And then a news article came out about it, and I'll have to dig it up and send it to you. But apparently because of the business issues around coronavirus and the business shutdowns and sort of all of these different things that are happening, business is going out of business. The state has had their tax revenue heavily impacted, like every state.
Yeah,
every state has had their tax revenue impacted, and so many states are looking at how do we make up for that lost revenue. Marijuana is a very interesting one because you don't have to raise property taxes, you don't have to raise taxes across the board in a variety of different areas. And you can still generate revenue from something that people are, I mean, let's face it, there's probably millions of people in Texas that smoke weed.
The demand is there.
Weed. Yeah. So, from a government standpoint, it's like, well, why don't we just tax it? I don't know how much of this is true, but I heard Colorado is actually at some point, maybe not anymore, but at some point, they were giving people money back on their tax returns because they were making so much damn money on taxing marijuana.
That would be pretty badass.
That is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like old school Alaska where they were giving people money to live there because from the oil money, right?
Yeah. So, and we got no income tax, but hey, maybe they'll decrease the property tax.
I mean, that's really the only kind of rough spot in Texas is the property taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if they lowered property taxes, good or bad, we'd have a massive flood of people coming here, which we already do.
Yeah, which you already do. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I ask everybody now, are you from Austin? And a lot of people say, yeah, but I can tell them like you are.
Are you from Austin? No. Where are you from?
I came here in 2013.
2013?
Yeah, I'm kind of from all over. I will admit, though, begrudgingly, that before Austin, I did live in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's anybody that's listening, if you're in Austin, I know you probably hate me for saying that. I know, I get it. I'm sorry.
Do they hate people coming from California or something?
Yeah, native Austins hate Californians. Anybody, and I'm responsible for many people from California moving here. So I'm sorry. I'm sure in the comments there's going to be people giving me death threats. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this a good place and try not to harm it. Trying to keep Austin the way it is. It's just inevitable though. It's a great city. You know, people want to come here from all over and be a part of it. And California is running through its own set of hurdles right now. And Austin at this point, you know, having lived in LA, Austin is essentially a mini LA. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
See, I've never been to LA, so I wouldn't know, but you think so? Yeah.
By living in Austin, you've been to LA.
Okay. I live in LA.
It's just a bigger version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Austin's a great city, though. There's a lot of amazing people here. From a tech standpoint, tech scene, and kind of that side of things, and entrepreneurship and business. I mean, it's amazing the people you bump into.
Yeah.
And it's just getting to be more so, which is one of the reasons I love Austin. From a business standpoint, it's just absolutely phenomenal.
Cool. So why did you move here anyway?
I got to the point where my wife and I were wanting to raise kids and have a family, and I didn't feel like LA was an appropriate place for that. Mm-hmm. And so we started looking, and we had actually come down here. There's a phenomenal gentleman by the name of Keith Cunningham, who's a local business guru. I can't say enough good things about him. The guy is absolute genius, the best businessman I've ever met in my life, and the best coach I've ever had. And
how did you get him as a coach?
Well, he does classes. Mm-hmm. He does something called the 4-day MBA, and he has a more entry-level business class, which I'm not sure if he does anymore. We're actually on his board. We work with other companies, and he works with us, and the guy's just absolute genius, like next level business. And so my wife and I had come out here to take one of his classes, and really just fell in love with Austin. We spent an extra couple days out here and drove around, went to see Lake Travis, and you know, just checked out the area, and was like, we're looking for some place to go. This was back in summer of 2012. And so we were kind of looking somewhere to go from LA, and it seemed like this was a perfect place. That was before the big sort of mass exodus from California to Austin. So we were probably at the front end of that. And then at one point, I think like 150, 200 people a day were moving here from California. I mean, just something crazy. And I'm convinced at this point, half of Austin's from California, even if they don't admit it.
They just lie.
Yeah. I can spot them from a mile away.
That's funny. So you pretty tapped into the entrepreneurial network here? Do you
Not super. Kids, you know, I've got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old now. So, you know, I got to be home for bath time every night. And all my free time, I really try and spend with my wife and my kids. And not as much as I probably should be. I'm making an effort to reach out and continue to meet people. But it is a great scene. And I bump into people quite often. And you know, my whole philosophy on everything is just make friends. Mm-hmm. Just make friends and figure out how you can serve other people and improve their life. And, you know, things will roll and happen, you know, just naturally that are beneficial. And
I want to give a shout out to David that put me in touch with you.
Yeah, David Ernest, the man. He's a life changer. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys. You know, great givers and life changers are rare. He's a phenomenally smart individual that just so caring and so giving. I love it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's tough to find people that have that giving nature and don't want anything in return. And that's one of the challenges in business that you run into is how do you build a team of people that are selfless and driven? And those two qualities are very tough to get together. You might get one or the other, but they're very tough to get together. And so that's really kind of how this company came to be, was just seeking out the best people we could find that were smart and driven and selfless and caring and givers. And we've ended up with such an amazing team. I mean, I can't take credit for any of this. I mean, these guys, the guys I work with, are just absolutely phenomenal. And the whole team, I mean, every single one of them just is so smart and so driven and pushes me way far beyond where I've ever been. I mean, I joke, there's a lot of luck involved in what we do, you know, with timing and certain products and, you know, is this going to work? And who knows? Let's see, you know, you might get lucky. But it's fascinating to see sort of the evolution of a business with people like that involved. And we're a weird one. You know, we've got a lot of people that work really closely, and I'm not even really the final say in the company. You know, we argue in a healthy way. We argue quite a bit, but a lot of people are like, well, how do you guys have a partnership? Like, how does that even work? And it really just comes down to the people. You know, I've heard so many horror stories. People tell me like, oh, this guy screwed me and he stole all my money and I'm out of business and this and that. And it's sad. It's tough to hear. But, you know, when you get a partnership with people that are just wonderful people and they have the same goal as you and they're willing to sacrifice to hit that goal, it's really fascinating how well it all comes together and how powerful that team is versus an individual. There's no single person in our group that really is the key to the whole thing. It's really everybody.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So we got some time left. Can we talk a little bit about, you know, how you got down to $4 and maybe some of your past stuff? And well, why?
Man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go down history lane.
Sure.
Yeah. So I was in the Coast Guard from 99 to 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Doing counter drug operations off the coast of Mexico. Did some fishery patrols in Alaska, which I wasn't hugely fond of.
What's fishery patrols?
So we would patrol the maritime boundary line between Russia and Alaska. And there was always boats. It's this imaginary line in the water, and there's always fishing boats from other countries trying to cross over and fish in American waters. And because they've really depleted the fisheries on their side, so they're coming over trying to get the fish on the American side. The MBL is probably one of the nastiest places on earth in terms of weather. It is crazy. I've seen swells and waves. I mean, literally, we were on a boat it was a cutter. So we were on a 378-foot boat with smaller boats that would pop off, and we'd go do boardings and other stuff and check out other stuff. But the main boat was fairly decent size, 378 feet. You know, we went through swells where there was hallways down the boat, and you would be literally walking on the wall to go straight because of the swells, like 40-foot swells. And I had a picture at one point. One of the gunner's mates took it off the bridge, but I can't find the picture. I don't know what happened to it. But I mean, I've got pictures of the front of the boat completely underwater submarining.
Damn.
It was wild. And I was at the time, this rate no longer exists, but I was a telecommunications specialist, and I did boardings. So we were responsible for all the communications, you know, figuring out message traffic and figuring out what's going on. And we were down in the bottom of the boat. They shoved us all the way in the bottom. And so there was a day where I was on watch and we were in 40-foot swells. I mean, just insane. You literally had to seatbelt yourself in a chair that was bolted to the floor so you didn't fly out and hit the ceiling.
Yeah, man.
And the photocopier beside me was bolted to the floor, but we hit a swell that broke it loose. And so I was sitting right beside it. I had a 200-pound photocopier come unbolted from the floor, bounce off the ceiling, and then come back down and just smash and just parts everywhere. And I'm sitting there like seatbelted in a chair, just watching it. And it was pretty terrifying. You know, obviously it's the Coast Guard, the Navy. We were stationed on a naval base, and they used to always pick on us, call us puddle pirates. We had our little tiny boats compared to their aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
You know, I was in San Diego, and man, some of these boats, these aircraft carriers, if you've never seen one in person, they are insanely big. I mean, it's literally a floating city.
Yeah, I've never seen one in person.
Yeah, it was cool, and we got to see, you know, where we were stationed. They would take the Navy SEAL guys out in a helicopter, and they would have them jump out of a helicopter and tell them to swim home. And man, those guys were intense. We had a boarding one time. They came by and told us, like, because, you know, we had watch days, so we'd be responsible for taking care of the boat while we're in port, and the rest of the guys would have the day off. So we had it like, you know, 7 sections. Each team had a day. And so they came in one morning and they said, hey, the Navy SEALs are going to board the boat today. And we just want to give you a heads up, like, don't get sketched out. It's just Navy SEAls, like, doing some training. I'm like, okay.
You're going to get assaulted at some point today. Don't worry about it, though.
Yeah, they're going to dunk your head in the toilet, and you're going to get some wet willies. And yeah, they're probably going to swim off. They're probably going to shave you, every hair on your body, and leave you tied up on the back of the boat. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect. And I was like 20 at the time. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, Navy SEAls are like, you know, that's the holy grail. These guys are intense. They do things that, you know, people only dream of. Mm-hmm. So it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So I'm like sitting in the galley, you know, they've got food and other stuff there, and you know, I see, like, out of the corner of my eye, this guy pop over the railing on the side of the boat. Like, we're in the water. There's like no way to climb up the side of the boat. This guy pops over the railing, and I'm like, huh, never seen that before. And they got their submachine guns, and they got their all blacked out, and like just coming through the boat, like just basically just taking over the whole boat. And I was like, this is amazing. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. Those guys were such badasses.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So did 4 years in the Coast Guard. Ended up back in Florida going to school. I didn't graduate. Got recruited I guess you'd call it early junior or sophomore year out of school to go do marketing. So I was buying websites and flipping them in school. So I would buy $8, $9 domains off GoDaddy, and I would build forums, vBulletin forums back in the day. So I'd built, I think Audio Junkies was one. I ended up selling that one. I don't think that it's still there, but I don't think they're doing anything with it.
What are people buying there? Basically a mailing list, and
they were buying the forums. So I would build the forums from scratch, and just get a large community on there.
Yeah.
And then, when it came time and I felt like it was big enough, I would, start kind of approaching some people I thought it would be applicable to, and they would buy it.
It's clever.
Yeah, I was making good money, and I kind of had a knack for building a community of people, and it was a lot of fun, and it was topics I enjoyed. GarageJunkies.net was one from back in the day. Now it's Garage Journal. And actually, a gentleman in Jippering Springs is the one that bought it from me.
Oh, no shit.
He works right down the road from where I work now, and I was
Nice.
like, oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Super nice guy. But yeah, I would build communities and then sell them, and got it really kind of a knack around doing online marketing and SEO. So I got a reputation for that where I was at the time in Tampa, and a local business consultant set me up with some local business owners, and ended up getting a full-time job and doing some work there. And then through that process, I got recruited by a company out of Los Angeles, went out to Los Angeles and started working for them. And then really started going down the path of doing startups and just trying to figure out what that looked like, and how do you take something from scratch to producing, millions of dollars a year. And it's such an interesting exercise to try and figure that out, because every time you do it is completely different. There's no, I've tried to create a broad recipe of how to do this.
It's too dependent on different variables.
And not only that, there's so much luck. There's so much luck involved in this. And it really is. I think people underestimate how much luck is involved in business. You can have everything perfect, and you can still screw it up with just one simple mistake. And so, I realized as I was going through this as an individual, I kept making stupid mistakes. And I kept doing things where I'm like, man, if only I had a team of smart people, they could have prevented me from doing that stupid mistake. And, I'm not perfect. I've got flaws like everybody. And I think that's a really important key to business, is understanding what your flaws are and surrounding yourself with people to help mitigate that risk. Because I joke with Hometown Hero, I would have put this company out of business a dozen times over already.
Yeah.
Like by myself, done. We'd be out of business.
Yeah.
No question. But, by surrounding yourself with people that care and understand their strengths and your weaknesses as well. And that's the thing, is so many people are scared of sharing their weaknesses, right? Like, why would you share that? It's so other people can cover your ass. And what does Keith Cunningham say is, you should always have somebody in your life that has permission to tell you your breath smells like shit.
I like that.
And so I really encourage the team of people that we work with, and they know they've got permission to do this, and they don't need my permission, but they know they're there to do this, is if I'm doing something stupid, call me out on it. Right. And that's been really the key of this company versus all the others, because a lot of times I try to do it individually or, with a small team that maybe didn't have the experience or the drive, and, or just not enough luck. A lot of times it's just not enough luck. And what's luck? It's when opportunity meets preparation.
That's when you get number 10.
Yep. Yeah, and odds. Odds tend to work in your favor. Although technically you could probably say it's like a coin flip. It could be heads or tails, and the odds may not have played a part in it, but I'll still always claim my number 10 was a win because the other 9 were failures. So, I've played in a whole bunch of different spaces. I was in Bitcoin prior to Hometown Hero. I had worked at one point, I was president of the largest Bitcoin mining company in the world. Probably lost more Bitcoins on Mt. Gox than I would ever care to admit. And if you're familiar with Bitcoin, you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah, coming out of the Bitcoin world, that was such a wild world back in the day. I came to Austin. I was working for a company. I wasn't thrilled, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go work for a Bitcoin company. So I quit my job. Didn't even have another job lined up, and just being crazy, and said, all right, I'm gonna go do this. And I'm a big fan of, and you and I were talking about, right? How do you want to pursue things within your life?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of burning bridges in the sense of, not in the sense of relationships, but burning bridges in the sense of you don't have the ability to go back, and this has to succeed, and there's no other option.
I totally understand what you're saying when it comes to that, because then if you don't totally burn those things, then you might find yourself in a place where you're just continuing in that place and not being happy.
If you've got a solid plan B, your plan A is probably not going to succeed. And I love going into things without a fallback. And it seems stupid, and it seems sort of, whatever you want to call it, but I love being forced into something full bore, right? This has to succeed. There is no other option. And that's really what Hometown Hero was to me. There was no other option. And this was either a succeed or I was potentially going to be homeless. And that was terrifying. It's one of the scariest times of my life. But in that same breath, it worked because I didn't have a choice, and I don't know if this company would be what it is, or if it would have worked the way it did if I had a day job, right? If I had something else going on where I'm like, I don't know. We'll see how this works. I didn't have a choice. I had to go out. I mean, I drove for the first probably 2 years of the company. I drove all over the state meeting with store owners. I've probably met more store owners of head shops, vapor stores in Texas than probably anybody on the planet. And I know a lot of the owners by name, by face, and, they contact me all the time and say what's going on and blah, blah, blah. And we're still friends. But, I was just put in a position where I didn't have a choice. And thankfully, we had clients and customers and friends that saw what we were doing and loved what we were doing and wanted to sell the products in their store and allowed me not to be homeless. Otherwise, it'd be a very different conversation.
Well, damn, man. It's been great talking to you, Lukas, and I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out here?
Yeah. For any of you that are looking at going down the path of running your own company, of doing your own thing, I always try and encourage people not to, because it's a different life. It's a different animal. It is stressful beyond belief, and you'll probably cry yourself to sleep many nights. But that being said, if you are the right person to do it, you'll ignore what I say and you'll do it anyways.
That's true.
And that's what I found is I really try to discourage people from starting their own companies and from going down that path. But the ones that, and I do this for a reason, because the ones that will most likely be successful are the ones that are going to ignore me and do it anyways.
Mm-hmm. I like it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Cheers, brother. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
And dude, thanks for all this stuff, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Enjoy, man. There's a lot of cool stuff. Oh, we've got melatonin gummies that are phenomenal. They will knock you out. And if you have issues sleeping, that is the jam.
I need these right now.
They
for sure.
are phenomenal. Funny short story. I had a package on my desk of those gummies, and I didn't know what they were. They were just in some generic packaging, and they wrote in big block letters, "Do not eat" on them. So I was like, why is there a pack of gummies on my desk that says "Do not eat"? So what's the logical thing to do? I pop one out and I ate it. So about 30 minutes later, and I still didn't know what they were. About 30 minutes later, I'm like, I'm nodding off, and I'm like, and I asked the guys I work with, Jonathan, I'm like, hey, what the hell did you guys put on my desk? He's like, did you eat one? Like, yeah. He's like, why the hell did you eat one? I told you do not eat them. I'm like, yeah, but you told me don't eat them, so that made me want to eat them, so I ate one. So I had to go home early. I mean, within 30 minutes, dude, I was ready to pass out and fall asleep under my desk. Like, the drive home was tough.
That's hilarious.
They are phenomenally good for sleeping. They're just amazing. So yeah, if you've got sleeping issues, definitely check out the Sleepy Peach gummies. If you're in Austin or if you're anywhere in the nation, we're in probably at least 1 or 2 stores near you, whether it's vapor or CBD store. And most of the vapor stores are now carrying CBD products as well. So you should be able to find it in either one. If they don't carry it, do us a favor and just let them know, hey, I'd like for you to carry this, and they'll call us and we'll get you set up and get you something going, and we'll go from there. But, dude, thank you so much for having me, man. Love it as always, and wish you a ton of success.
Thank you, Lukas. Appreciate it.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. It's awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this.